Ladies and gentlemen, jury, we're going to take a break. I know that it is 4:56, so almost 5 o'clock. What I want to do, though, is we have some witnesses outside, and I'm going to talk to the attorneys about them and how long they're going to take. I'm going to try to get maybe at least one of them, depending on the time frame. What I want you to do, we're going to go ahead and take a 15-minute break. What I want you to do is, when you come back, I'm going to ask you if there's anybody, what the earliest time you have to get out of here, if you have commitments where you have to be at, and then I will restructure within that. But I'd like to go maybe until 5:30, maybe even a little longer, to at least get one of our witnesses who's outside in. So please do not discuss the case amongst yourselves. Please do not do any research related to the case. We will see you back here in 15 minutes. All rise for the jury. Jury is exited. Everyone may be seated. Mr. Terry, I know that, wait, that door closes. Mr. Terry, I know that you had that one young lady who had the scholarship ceremony.
She's been waiting outside.
Yeah, I know. Do you know how long your direct is going to take of her? Is she a fairly short witness?
She's not that long, Judge.
Okay.
My direct will probably take 15,
Okay.
20 minutes maybe.
And approximately across of her?
Direct and cross shouldn't take more than 30 minutes.
All right, so that would take us to about, well, if I remember back, 5:15. That's going to take us till 5:45. What do you have next?
The stepfather who was also present, his will take longer.
Yeah.
His has 911 calls I would need to
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask them when they come back, you know, what's the earliest any of you have to get out of here and see. I mean, if they say they can stay until 6 or even after 6, is there anybody again? You know what? I've got my court recorder. It's been typing all day. Let's just do that first one. Let's get that first witness in and out.
Yeah, I think 30 minutes is probably about right for her.
Okay.
So.
Let's do that first one. So I'm going to take a 15-minute break. We'll allow the state to call their first witness, and then I'll send them home.
What? Police officer, I texted them. I texted them.
Jury's present and seated. Everyone else may be seated at this time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. Deputy DeVore told me the consensus was about 6 o'clock. I assure you we won't keep you past 6 o'clock. We're going to call the first witness. We just call one witness, and we'll get you out of here before 6 o'clock. So I'm going to ask the state to call their first witness.
Still call Elizabeth Ray.
Elizabeth Ray. Ms. Ray, good afternoon and welcome. If you'll come forward to be sworn wherever you're comfortable, ma'am. If you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Thank you very much. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. If you'll follow the bailiff around to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. When you get to the chair, go ahead and have a seat, make yourself comfortable, and then I'm going to allow the attorneys an opportunity to ask you some questions. That microphone is adjustable if necessary. Thank you. Mr. Terry, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Ms. Ray.
Good afternoon.
Where are you currently living?
Gainesville?
Okay, and do you go to school there?
Yes.
All right, you living in a dorm there?
Yes.
When did you move to Gainesville?
June 24th, something like that.
So this just
Yes,
a month ago or so? And are you a freshman, senior? What's
Freshman.
Freshman. Okay. Where's your permanent address?
Tampa.
And what's the address itself? The physical address?
14108 Pennsbury Drive, Tampa, Florida.
And were you living at that address back in August of 2015?
Yes.
And how long had you lived there in 2015?
I moved there in 2007.
Who else lived there with you at that time?
My mother and my stepfather,
All right. And what were their names?
Lena Rowe and Wesley Rowe.
And did you, well, let me show you, I'm going to show you pictures that are marked as State's Exhibits number 1, A through T, and ask you if you can look through those and see if you recognize those. Let's look through them real quick. Look through them real quick just to make sure you recognize them. Do you recognize those?
Yes.
Okay. And what are they pictures of?
My house and like Miriam's house.
Okay. And were you living at your house back in August of 2015?
Yes.
And do these pictures fairly and accurately depict the way your house and Miss Miriam's house looked on August of 2015?
Yes.
Judge, and I'm getting these back in order so I can show them to the defense.
Are you moving them in at this time?
I am, Judge. I just wanted to give the defense chance to look at them.
No, absolutely,
Judge.
absolutely.
The defense has no objection, Your Honor.
They will be admitted. If you could just cite the number again, I got it, it was A through something. I
It's
didn't-
actually going to be 1A through T, or I mean through A through O, Your Honor.
A through O.
A through O, yes.
It'll be admitted at this time as a composite exhibit.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. And this is, in fact, or tell me what that is.
My mailbox.
All right. And this right here, what is that a picture of?
In the front of my house.
And would that be your front door right there?
Yes.
All right. And this is another picture. Is that, again, in front of your house?
Yes.
And is that your driveway?
Yes.
And the house over here to the side, well, whose house is that?
Miriam's.
All right. Again, this is a more close-up photo. Is that that's the front of your house?
Yes.
That as well?
Yes.
And what are we looking at here?
A space between my house and Miriam's house.
So there's no fence between your houses?
No.
All right. And this picture here, is that more of that space?
Yes.
Now, did you know a neighbor by the name of Nicole Nachtman?
Yes.
Do you see her here today?
Yes, over there.
Can you identify her, please? Just, I saw you point, but just maybe say like what she's wearing for the record, or what she,
Black shirt.
record reflection by the defendant.
Record shall so reflect.
Right. How long has she lived next to you?
A couple years back then.
Okay. And did you know her mother?
Not really.
All right.
I just met them like the first day they moved in, really, and just saw them.
All
I
right.
never really like talked to them that much.
Did you see Nicole around from time to time?
Yes.
Where would you see her generally? Just walking her out front of the house or stuff?
Yes.
Were you all friends? Did you say hello to her or anything like that?
I went trick-or-treating with her one time.
Okay. But other than that, any other real contact with her or anything like that?
No.
Would you all say hi to each other when you saw each other?
Not really.
Not really? But you recognize what she looks like, right?
Yes.
At the house where Nicole lived, who would you see most of the time?
Bob, I would see him outside, always like working on the pool, or outside,
Okay.
just walking to the house. And I'd saw like Miriam come home from work,
All right. But Bob was the one you saw the most, usually around the house, working outside?
just outside, yeah.
Yeah. Now, going back to August of 2015, let me ask you this. Do you know what kind of cars they drove? Were you familiar with that?
Yes.
And what kind of car did you see Nicole drive? Do you remember?
A red Prius.
Now going back to August of 2015, what grade were you in at that time?
I was entering freshman year of high school.
And where were you going to school?
Sickles High School.
Specifically August 20th of 2015, the day of this incident. Do you remember that day and what you were doing?
Yes, I had my open house for Sickles.
All right, do you remember what time the open house was at Sickles?
I got ready for it like 2. It was like early afternoon.
Okay. And on that day, were you home alone?
For a little.
Okay. And where was your mom?
Working.
Okay. And what about your dad?
Working.
All right. So while you were home alone, you said you were getting ready to go to Sickles?
Yes.
Who was going to take you to Sickles?
My dad.
Okay.
He took off work.
And he was going
pick
to
me up.
come pick you up? Now, while you were there that afternoon, did you ever see Nicole Nachtman?
Yes.
When did you see her? Do you remember?
Like early afternoon, 2 o'clock.
And what was she doing?
I just saw her walk out like the side door of like, which is like the garage side door. I
Alright.
saw her walk out towards the driveway.
And did you immediately recognize that it was Nicole?
Yes.
And we're talking about the 20th of August of 2015, the day you had that Sickles thing. Is that
Yes.
correct? Where were you at that you saw her walking out?
I was in my bedroom, just sitting there, and like you could just like see like down the space between.
Okay. And so you're talking about that space that we showed that picture of between the two houses?
Yes.
Your window looked out into that space?
Yes. It's
And
like the last one.
And the doorway you saw her come out was on the side of her house, and you could see it from where you were in your room?
Yes.
And how do you remember that, seeing her coming out of that door?
I just saw her walk towards the driveway, and I didn't think anything of it at the time.
Okay. Was it normal to see her coming out of that door?
No.
And how did she appear at the time when you saw her coming out of the room?
I didn't see if she was like holding anything or anything. I just saw her walk towards the driveway. I couldn't really tell.
Okay. Let's see this picture. I'm showing you what's previously been introduced as State's Exhibit 1K. Do you see your room in this picture?
It would be the window next to that one.
Okay, so like I'm pointing here, so it'd be the window more
Yeah,
over
there's like
here?
another window right there.
All right, and do you see the door you saw Nicole Nachtman walk out of on that day?
Yes.
And where's that door?
Next to the AC thing.
Next to the AC thing? Okay, like, so I'll use this pin. Is that the door you're
Yes.
referring to? And that's the door you saw her come out of?
Mhm. It's a garage door. I have the same one on my house.
Okay. So you went to the open house at Sickles,
Yes.
and you said it was late afternoon?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and you went with your father. Did you drive or did your father drive?
My father drove.
Okay. And was your father there when Nicole came out, or were you by yourself?
I was by myself.
How long were you at the open house?
Maybe like 2 to 3 hours.
And what did you do after the open house?
I came home, had like a quick snack, and then me and my dad played tennis and went to Panera Bread after that.
All right. And then, and your mom was still at work all this time?
She comes home like around 7 to 8, between that time.
Okay, so after playing tennis with your dad and going to Panera Bread, did you come home at that time? Or what did you do?
Yes.
All right. Do you recall about what time that was that you got home?
Like around 9 o'clock, I would say.
And did your dad stay, or did he just drop you
He
off?
just dropped me off, made
Yeah.
sure I got in the house and then left.
Okay. Now, when you got home at 9, who all else was in the house, if anyone?
My stepdad and my mom was out on like a walk because she always calls my grandma and walks around the neighborhood.
So she was out for a walk at that time.
Yes.
And your stepdad was in the house. And his name again is what?
Wesley.
Okay. And so when you got home around 9 o'clock and you were there, what were you doing at that point?
I just went to my room and I was showing him. I got like a bunch of papers like from all like my syllabuses from high school, and I was just showing him that.
Okay. And Did anything happen while you were sitting there and you were looking through the paperwork for Sickles?
I heard like 3 loud booms, but I just thought it was fireworks.
Okay. Describe, if you can, for the jury, what it sounded like, what you heard, to the best that you can. Like, was it quick? Was it slow? Was it one right after the other? Was one just the best you can describe what the sound that you heard?
I heard one, and then like a pause, and then 2 more, and then I heard like a scream.
Okay. And when you say a scream, like how did the scream sound?
I couldn't tell if it was like a male or a female.
Okay. Did it sound like a scream of joy, a scream of agony, or what? Like the description of the scream, if you can.
Of pain.
Of pain. Okay. And was that right after you heard the 3 shots?
Yes.
Right. And after you heard those 3 loud bangs and the scream, what did you do?
My stepdad's like really paranoid, so he told me to go in the closet, which is like in their closet, which is on the opposite side of the house, like far away from where we heard the bangs.
Okay. And what happened when you got into the closet?
I just sat and like started watching a TV show.
On your phone or something?
Yeah.
Okay. I would thought it was strange if you had a TV in your closet. So.
No.
All right. So while you're in there, were you worried at that moment?
No.
Okay, you weren't concerned about the shots?
No. I didn't think, I just thought he was very paranoid, and I was only like 14.
Okay. Could you tell when you heard the 3 loud booms that you described, could you tell where they came from?
I could tell it was on like the side of the house I was on, so.
So it sounded like it was coming from the side
The
where
left
your
of my
window is.
bedroom, yes.
Okay. So kind of like that area where we saw where it was kind of the middle in
Yes.
between?
It was like more towards the front of the house on
Okay.
the left.
So you could kind of tell the direction of it when you heard it. It was outside your window but more towards the front.
Yes.
Is that the way you're describing it? Okay. Did you try and look out the window at that time to see what happened?
No,
All right.
I didn't think anything of it.
Now, when you're in the closet, did you hear any more booms or anything else?
No.
And how long were you in the closet in your parents' room?
I stayed in there, like, the police came in and, like, searched the house, and I still stayed in there after that. They told me it was fine to stay in there. I didn't want to move, so.
Were you a little bit frightened when you saw the police come into your house?
Yes, I knew my stepdad called them, though, so I was expecting them. But it was kind of scary, because they come in with the guns.
Okay. And so, with the police in the house, you decided you're just going to stay in the closet anyhow?
Yes.
Did your dad want, or your stepdad want you to, or were you?
Yes,
Okay.
and I wanted to. So.
Okay. Do you recall how long you were in the closet?
I don't know, maybe like 2 hours, 3
Okay.
hours.
Did you ever go look out of the front window in your house that night after the police were called?
Yes.
And what did you see when you looked out that night?
I could see like the body of Miriam.
Okay, and you
I couldn't tell it was her though.
but you could just
They-
you could just tell it was a body?
Yes.
And where was that body?
Like on the left end of my driveway.
All right. So in State's Exhibit 1C, here's the front of your house and the driveway. Is that the body you're referring to that you could see?
Yes.
And is that the position that it looked like when you looked out the window and saw it?
Yes.
All right. And again, you couldn't tell who it was, you could just notice it was a
No.
body.
Yeah, because it's facing downward, I think.
Did you ever give a statement to the police about what you saw and heard?
Yes.
Now you said you saw Nicole out your window that day. Did you ever see Bob out there during the day working in the yard?
No.
And was he normally outside though on most days?
Yes. With his shirt off.
With his shirt off?
Yeah.
He worked in the yard with his shirt off?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you recall, if you can, when was the last time you had seen Bob prior to that day?
Earlier in the week. This was like on a Friday, so like maybe like Monday or something.
Okay, now August 20th was a Thursday.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if it's like a Thursday, would you...
Objection, he's, at this point, he's leading.
Don't lead the witness,
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Terry.
Let me ask you this. Do you remember what date, August 20th, whether it was a Thursday or Friday?
No.
Okay. But it was later in the week, is that what you're trying to
Yes.
say? And you said it was earlier in the week that you saw?
Yes.
Okay. Just let me have one moment.
Yes.
All right, Judge, I'll pass the witness.
All right, cross-examination?
Yes, Judge, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Let me take you back to the time when you went trick-or-treating with Nicole Nachtman. You remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you and she talk during that time that you were together trick-or-treating?
Not really. I was pretty shy.
And as a matter of fact, Nicole didn't talk very much either during that time period with you, correct?
Yes.
And she was also shy, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. And during the trick-or-treating, you observed that Nicole would ask people at their houses to give her vegetables instead of candy, is that correct?
Yes.
And you thought that was unusual?
Yes.
This trick-or-treating is usually for candy?
Yes.
All right, and do you have any idea how it was that Nicole came to be trick-or-treating with you?
I think my mother invited her
Okay.
just because they were new to the neighborhood.
Do you recall if Miriam went with you?
She did not.
And do you recall if anyone from Miriam's family went with her that night and went with you?
They did not.
And about how long had you known that Miriam and Bob and Nicole lived in the house before this trick-or-treating aspect of life?
Not very long.
And had Nicole ever been at your home prior to trick-or-treating, just to hang out or play or visit
No.
or anything? Had you ever been over to Miriam and Bob and Nicole's home?
No.
To talk or play or anything of that sort?
I never went in their house.
Did, as a matter of fact, really, the two families weren't really friends with each other, correct? It was just mainly, we live in this, next door to each other, say hi, bye, things like that?
Yes.
And you were how old at that time, if you recall?
Maybe 5th grade, 4th grade.
And you recall about what grade it was that Nicole was in at the time?
I knew she was in high school. I don't really know when.
You indicated, and I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this, you went to the open house that night with your dad, not your stepdad, is that correct?
Yes, he was at work.
Okay. And when you say that you went to play tennis, again, it was with your dad, not your stepdad, and then y'all also went to dinner, is that correct?
Yes.
And when you came back, you indicated it was probably about 9 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay. And did you notice that the red Prius was still there at the house, parked there at that time when you arrived?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you recall, let me ask you this question, and there's nothing wrong with it. Did you prepare in order to testify today with either Mr. Terry or Miss Derry? Did you meet with them and talk to them about testifying?
Yes.
Okay. When was that?
3-4 weeks ago.
Okay. Did they give you a copy of your interview with law enforcement?
Yes.
And did you take that home with you?
Well, when I went to Gainesville, I left it.
When you met with either Mr. Terry or Miss Derry, did they give you a copy of your interview?
Yes.
And did you leave the building that you met with them in with the copy of the interview?
Yes.
And did they also give you a copy of your deposition by any chance?
Yes.
Okay. And did you leave the building with that deposition?
Yes.
And it was, Terry, I'm going to be referring to page 14. You recall that your deposition was taken on May the 3rd of 2017, and specifically, the deposition was conducted by Ms. Hersey Fulgera.
Yes.
And there was an assistant state attorney that was there at the deposition, but it was not Mr. Terry or Ms. Derry. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. You remember that there was a court reporter similar to what's someone that's in front of you right now taking down things?
Yes.
You recall that you were putting your oath at that time?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you at this time, again, page 14. And I'm going to ask you, I'm not going to put it up on.
Okay.
I'm going to show this to you, and I'm going to ask you to please read the areas that I've highlighted and see if that refreshes your recollection as to what you testified to on that date regarding whether or not the red Prius was at the home of Miriam and Bob and Nicole. Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
And was the red Prius there when you returned home from having dinner with your father on that date?
I'm not sure completely if I saw it or not.
Okay, let me go again. You said that this refreshed your recollection.
Yeah.
Okay, do you recall being asked the question, but you remember specifically, not your dad but you, that the red Prius was there when you got home about 8:30 and responding yes? You recall that?
Yes.
And that is what is written here, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, you indicated that you had seen Nicole earlier that day, and I might have missed the time. Do you recall what time it was on August the 20th of 2015 that you saw Nicole?
Early afternoon.
Okay. Before you left to go to
Yes.
your open house, is that correct?
Yes.
Right. And the door that Nicole Nachtman was coming out of, is a door that you believe, based on the way these homes are built, that that's the door from the garage that she was walking out of. Is that correct?
Yes. If it's the same as mine. Yes.
Okay. And about how, well, just strike that. Did you know that Nicole had left to go away to college?
When? I knew she went to college.
Did you know she had gone away to
Yes.
college? And during the time period that she was gone away to college, did you know that she was in Tallahassee?
Yes.
And during the time period that she was away to college, for the normal every day, did you see her coming back from wherever she was going to college? Or
No.
was she living away from the home?
She would come back like in the summertime.
Okay, for the summertime. All right, and so your opportunities to observe Nicole and whether or not she used the garage door on occasion was really limited to the summer? Because
Yeah.
she'd only lived there a couple of years?
Yes.
Or at least in 2015, the family had only lived there for 2015.
Yes.
But Nicole had been gone away to college for the majority of that time, correct?
Yes.
Only coming back for the holidays or summer?
Yes. Well, she was here for high school for a little too.
Okay. And let me talk to you a little bit about that. You and Nicole, when you would see each other again, either in the neighborhood or around school or anything like that, you still didn't speak to each other, is that correct?
I never saw her at school.
Never?
No, we're like far apart in age.
Okay. But in the neighborhood, you wouldn't speak to each other.
No.
Other than being shy, both of you, was there any other reason for that?
No.
And when you saw Nicole walking out towards the driveway, did you follow her in her path to the driveway at all?
No.
I'm sorry.
I went back to doing my homework. So.
And you were observing her through what would be an open kind of window, not open physically, but you could physically see through the window. That's how you were observing her, is that
Yes.
correct? Is it accurate that during the day, for the most part, both houses would have blinds open and that you could see into each other's houses because there was no privacy fence?
Yes.
And you indicated that you did not see anything in Nicole's hands or any type of backpack or anything of that sort at that time, is that correct?
No, I could not tell.
And did you ever hear a car turn on, drive away, anything like that at that time period?
No.
And I have a moment, Judge.
Yes.
I have nothing further.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Read away.
Just briefly, I have a couple of questions I meant to ask them on the direct, I forgot. Elizabeth, when, just before you heard the 3 loud bangs, did you hear any yelling or shouting or any voices raised at all?
No.
Have you ever heard voices raised or shouting or yelling coming from the house next door, the Nachtman's home?
No.
The Dean's home? No?
No.
No time prior to that?
No.
And no time just before you heard those shots?
No.
All right. Nothing from the judge.
May this witness be excused by the state
Yes, she may.
and by the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ray. You may step down. You may be excused as a witness at this time.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it's close enough to 6 o'clock that we're not going to call another witness. I'm going to send you home for the evening. My instructions to you are the same as the instructions that I've been giving you. You are not to do any research related to this case. You are not to discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. You are to make all efforts to avoid any contact with any media of this case or any exposure to this case outside of this courtroom. We are going to start at 9 a.m. tomorrow. We'll pick up where we left off, and I'll ask the state to call their next witness. Tomorrow, we will break by 5 o'clock. It'll depend on where we're going if we go up to 5 o'clock. But I have to teach a class at USF tomorrow night at 6:30, so I need to get out of here close to 5 o'clock. So I want you to meet outside the door. Deputy DeVore will have information for you approximately a quarter till 9 a.m. so that we can get started in here sharply at 9 a.m. All rise for the jury.
Yes.
Jury has exited. Everyone may be seated. Anything from either side before we conclude for the day?
No, sir. Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you all. Have a nice evening. I'll see you in the morning, 9 a.m.
Thank you. I will be
But I'm not ready to call Becker.
Yeah, then I can.
I'm ready for like, say 1:30.
That's what I wanted to know, what you thought.
Hello? Yeah, we're about Christina.
Yeah, in the morning. Yeah, so I want
Judge, you're thinking tomorrow probably like, same thing, you're gonna continue to give hour and a half-ish lunches?
Well, breaks about every hour and a half. I don't like to keep
Right,
them
but then
sitting.
about how long?
Oh, hour and a half lunch? No, probably not an hour and a half lunch. Probably an hour and 15 at most.
Good.
Yeah, I'll make a call, but an hour to hour and 15. Definitely not an hour and a half.
Perfect.
Thank you, Judge. Yeah, we want to really try and.
Only did that today because we were working while they were at lunch, but I don't expect that we'll be working while they're at lunch, so there's no reason to
I
give
think the
them.
next couple of days is going to go much quicker and smoother because it's just putting